offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, who is favoured by Srimati Radharani and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the science of Krishna. Introduction. On March the 7th, 1918, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, adorning the saffron robes of a mendicant, accepted the renounced order of life, Tridandi Sannyas. He then raised the call of Sri Krishna Sankirtan at Sri Dham Mayapur. In so doing, Sarasvati Thakur brought attention to the deep spiritual teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Sarasvati Thakur issued a universal challenge of absolute war against all philosophical and theistic misconceptions that cover the true identity of the soul. He taught that the only thing lacking in this world is love for Krishna, and the only real welfare work to be done is the distribution of Krishna's holy names, which is the prime benediction for humanity. The achievement of power, wealth, and fame are all temporary and lead to perpetual suffering in the cycle of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement, restarted by Sarasvati Thakur, was the revival of the original Krishna Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 15th century. Sarasvati Thakur led a renaissance of Krishna Bhakti, establishing temples, defeating opposing philosophies, writing many books, and reviving Sankirtan. He influenced thousands of people to take to the path of divine love for Krishna. Part 1. His birth, 1874. Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur was born in Orissa at Jagannath Puri on February the 6th, 1874, as the seventh child of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srimati Bhagavata Devi. Bhaktivinoda was a government official and in charge of the Jagannath temple in Puri, and importantly, he was a great pioneer in spreading Krishna consciousness. At that time, the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had all but been lost or distorted by unscrupulous persons. Bhaktivinoda began publishing numerous papers and books establishing the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya. With his spotless character, he restored dignity to the Gaudiya Vaishnava community. Bhaktivinoda prayed to Lord Jagannath to kindly send him someone who would be capable of preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya. Upon the birth of his seventh child, Bhaktivinoda realized, after observing a series of divine events, that his newborn son was indeed the answer to his prayers. Accordingly, Bhaktivinoda called his son Bimla Prasad, meaning the mercy of Lord Jagannath, or one who reveals to the world the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. His son received the blessings of Lord Jagannath during the annual Rath Yatra festival when he was only 5 months old. This was noted by Bhaktivinoda as a direct confirmation of his son's life purpose. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada shares with us a description.
When my spiritual master appeared at Jagannath Puri, he was the son of a very big government office, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was magistrate, And in those days, a magistrate is a big officer in the government, practically next to governor. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in charge of the Jagannath temple. So there was Ratha Yatra festival, and the car was passing in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. The car stopped before his house. And at that time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, a child in the lap of his mother, the mother took the opportunity, rising on the car. He was magistrate's wife, so he had the facility. Immediately people gave her a way to go on the top of the car and place the child on the lotus feet of Jagannath, and there were many garlands. One garland fell upon him. Bhaktisiddhanta says, blessings.
Part 2, Study and Youth, 1881 to 1899. Bhaktivinoda Thakur moved his family to Calcutta the same year his son was born in 1874. Later, in 1881, Bhaktivinoda constructed a place of residence and chanting. While the foundations were being dug, a Kumar Salagram Srila was discovered. Bhaktivinoda placed his 7-year-old son, Sarasvati Thakur, in charge of daily worship of the Srila. Sarasvati Thakur was indeed an exceptional personality. By the age of 7, he was assisting his father in proofreading a monthly spiritual journal. That same year, he received Harinama and Tulsi beads and the Nashrima mantra from Bhaktivinoda. As a primary student, Sarasvati Thakur quickly mastered his general studies. Later, in 1885, while under the tutelage of Pandit Sundarlal, he excelled in Sanskrit, mathematics, and Vedic astrology. He was thus awarded the epic title Siddhanta Sarasvati, meaning one who has knowledge and scholarship and blessed by the goddess of learning. That title was to remain with him for life. In 1887, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was posted in government service to Krishnanagar. During that time, he began visiting Nadavipdam. On one such visit, Bhaktivinoda was staying at a dharmashala where he had a vision of Yogapitha, the birth site of Sri Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda was sitting on the flat roof, and across the Ganges in the direction of Mayapur, he saw an effulgent glow. Within that divine effulgence appeared a wonderful temple surrounded by light. Bhaktivinoda was utterly amazed. The following week he went to that area of Mayapur at night and again had a wonderful vision of the mandir, the temple. He spent the next day wandering all over the area. The elderly locals told him that this was indeed the location of Sri Chaitanya's birthplace. They pointed out the mound covered by tulsi plants as the actual site of the Lord's appearance. However, in Nadavip, the findings of Bhaktivinoda were opposed by the caste Brahmins, who claimed the birth site of Sri Chaitanya was actually in the modern Nadavip town. But according to Bhaktivinoda's research, utilising maps and authentic manuscripts of the Chaitanya Bhagavat and other scriptures, he was certain that it was located on the eastern bank of the Ganges. He also discovered that the present town of Nadavip situated on the western bank of the Ganges, was not more than 100 years old. Thus, the modern Nadavweep could not be the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya. In 1888, wishing to confirm his vision in finding Sri Chaitanya's birth site, Bhaktivinoda requested Jagannath Das Babaji, his Siksha Guru, and the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnava community to come to the birth site. The aged Babaji was more than 120 years old at that time and had to be carried in a basket. However, when Jagannath Das Babaji was brought to the spot that Bhaktivinoda had discovered, he became overwhelmed with ecstasy and jumped from his basket, shouting, "This is indeed the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya." Thus, from both the empirical and spiritual points of view, the place of Sri Chaitanya's birth was ascertained. From this time on, Sarasvati Thakur began staying in not only Calcutta, but sometimes in Mayapur at intervals. While staying in Calcutta, Sarasvati Thakur studied Sanskrit and the Vedas at the Calcutta Sanskrit College. During those years, Sarasvati Thakur manifested a strong tendency to not get married and informed his family that he had no intention of taking up householder life. In 1898, Sarasvati Thakur accompanied Bhaktivinoda Thakur on pilgrimage to Gaya, Varanasi and Prayag. At 24 years old, when Sarasvati Thakur went to Sukhada Kunj, he met his spiritual master, Gorakishore Das Babaji, for the first time. Here, Sarasvati Thakur had the opportunities to associate with the most elevated Vaishnavas of that time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, Vamsi Das Babaji, and Gorakishore Das Babaji. Part 3. Initiation and Preaching, 1900 to 1902. In late January of 1900, after repeated humble submissions, Gorakishore Das Babaji happily accepted Sarasvati Thakur as his formally initiated disciple and conferred upon him the name Sri Vasabhanavi Devi Dayacha Das, meaning one who is the servant of the dearly, most beloved Srimati Radharani. In 1902, Sarasvati Thakur went to Jagannath Puri with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There he came into conflict with a kirtan party led by Radha Raman Charan, who had established a poetic style of kirtan wherein there were opposing philosophical conclusions and conflicting transcendental mellows. Radharaman Charan was also imitating ecstasies, and sometimes he would dress himself or his male followers as gopis. Sarasvati Thakur found these kirtan deviations and imitations to be against the principles of Sri Chaitanya. All these deviant practices were firmly protested by Sarasvati Thakur, who preached pure devotional kirtan. Sarasvati Thakur then travelled to South India, where he met the head priest of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Together, they discussed the Vaishnava order of Tridandi Sannyas, which had been in effect for several thousands of years. It was clear to Sarasvati Thakur from their discussions that Tridandi Sannyas was an accepted part of the Vaishnava Dham, although it had been lost over time Returning from South India, Sarasvati Thakur went to Mayapur, where he remained for 4 years and chanted 300,000 names of Krishna every day. Part 4. The disappearance of his gurus, 1914 to 1917. By 1914, Sarasvati Thakur had become widely recognized as an exceptional example of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. The numerous branches of Bengali spiritualists such as the Balls, Sakivakis, Smaritans, and Adivatis cowered in fear before this great personality. The mission of Sri Chaitanya was now in good hands, and Mayapur was beginning to flourish. In a letter, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave Sarasvati Thakur specific instructions for establishing a daily divine system based on service to Krishna, preaching Krishna consciousness to the masses, publishing devotional books, and establishing the annual circumambulation of Mayapur Dham. Not long after giving these instructions, Bhaktivinoda left this world. On June 23, 1914, precisely at noon, Bhaktivinoda entered the pastimes of Krishna, far beyond the vision of material eyes. The next year, on November 17, 1915, Gaurkishordas Babaji also left this world. Sarasvati Thakur placed Gaurkishordas Babaji's body in Samadhi. Within 2 years, both his gurus had departed from this world. Sarasvati Thakur experienced deep separation from his loving gurus and was thus thinking how he would be able to fulfill their spiritual desires. Then, one night, while contemplating the instructions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had a vision that Sri Chaitanya had arrived at the Yoga Pirtha with his associates amid the sound of Krishna Kirtan. With him were the 6 Goswamis, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Gaurkishordas Babaji, all of whom spoke encouraging words to Sarasvati Thakur to boldly preach the message of Sri Chaitanya, and they assured him of all success. Soon after, Sarasvati Thakur found a piece of torn paper carried by the wind. The paper contained a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Sanatana Goswami. From this verse, Sarasvati Thakur derived full notes that would become the foundation of his missionary activities: to publish spiritual books, to teach the principles of devotional service, to open centres to assist the cultivation of love for Krishna. Part 5. His sannyas and missionary activities, 1918 to 1936. From 1914 until 1918, Sarasvati Thakur gave considerable thought to the necessary steps to be taken in order to widely spread the Sankirtan movement. Having received direct intonation from both his gurus and directly from Sri Chaitanya, Sarasvati Thakur resolved to accept Tridandi Sannyas, the renounced order of life, on March the 7th, 1918, on the occasion of the 432nd Appearance Day anniversary of Sri Chaitanya. Thus he became known as Tridandi Goswami Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. He then established preaching quarters nearby Yogapirtha, where he installed deities of Sri Sri Gaura Gauranga Gandharva Giridhari. The Bhagavat printing press was set up, and the presses worked constantly, printing the message of Sri Chaitanya. That same year, a house was rented in Calcutta, and a flurry of preaching and sankirtan began in that city. Many educated and influential people of Calcutta came to the house to hear the lectures of Sarasvati Thakur. That place of preaching was called Bhakti Vinod Asana. In 1920, deities were installed in Bhakti Vinod Asana. In 1921, the annual Nadaviv Parikaram began and thousands of pilgrims attended. In 1924, the first Vyasa Puja, celebrating the 50th Appearance Day anniversary of Sarasvati Thakur, was held in Calcutta. In 1925, during the Nadaviv Parikaram, Sarasvati Thakur and his disciples were physically attacked by an angry mob of caste-conscious Brahmins, Pandits, and hired thugs from the town. This was a very dangerous situation. At that time, Vinod Biharidas performed an heroic service, exchanging clothes with Sarasvati Thakur, diverting the mob while Sarasvati Thakur was taken to safety. 1926 and 1927 saw the publication of a daily Bengal newspaper and the monthly famous journal, The Harmonist. Not a day went by, or a moment in a day, when Sarasvati Thakur was not preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya. He gave much importance to divine scriptures and called the printing press Brihad Madanga. Sarasvati Thakur often said the cartels and madanga can be heard nearby, but the printing press can be heard around the world. In the course of 18 years, from 1918 to 1937, Sarasvati Thakur published important literatures of the 6 Goswamis, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Hari Bhakti Vilas. He published the Bhagavad Gita commentaries of Baladev Vijayabhusan. He also published Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the works of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, and Srila Vyasadev's Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarasvati Thakur's writing was indeed monumental. During these years, Sarasvati Thakur also established over 64 missionary centres in India and abroad, and installed deities of Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna in all the main temples. Also during this time, Sarasvati Thakur conferred sannyas on a total of 21 disciples and sent them out to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya. Sarasvati Thakur also opened the very first devout diorama exhibition in Mayapur during the 1934 Gaura Purnima festival. The dioramas depicted the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and the principles of devotional service. Sarasvati Thakur was keen to preach to Westerners. In his travels throughout India, he sometimes discussed philosophy and religion with persons such as Sir William Malcolm Haley, who was the governor of the United Provinces, and Professor Albert Southers from Ohio State University. Sarasvati Thakur often made elaborate arrangements for Westerners to come to Mayapur to hear the sublime teachings of Sri Chaitanya. In 1932, he established the first Vrindavan Parikaram, and with his disciples, he went there to circumambulate Vrindavan during the month of Kartika. He arrived in Vrindavan by car with many of his non-Brahmin disciples. This created quite a stir amongst the caste Brahmins of Vrindavan, and all the main temples closed their doors in protest. Only the Radharaman temple opened its doors and welcomed Sarasvati Thakur and his disciples. At the Radharaman temple, Sarasvati Thakur commented that he was getting the darshan of all the deities of Vrindavan with Radharaman. At Radhakund in Vrindavan, Sarasvati Thakur established a place of worship for his two gurus, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gaurkishore Das Babaji. Sarasvati Thakur always cautioned his disciples not to intrude in the higher leelas of Krishna. Do not try to go to the higher plane with your impurities. First, let your heart become purified by Nam Sankirtan, the holy names of Krishna. Unlike some so-called gurus of that time, Sarasvati Thakur did not like his disciples to discuss the details of Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. He was particularly disturbed when he heard any of his disciples discussing Rasalila. In 1933, Sarasvati Thakur sent an envoy to Europe via London to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya. In London, Sarasvati's preachers held programs in the Albert Hall and met with British royalty such as King George V and Queen Mary. They also met with the Archbishop of Canterbury and the distinguished Lord Zetland. Travelling to Germany, Sarasvati Thakur's preachers met with Adolf Hitler and his ministers such as Herr Joseph Goebbels. Sri Chaitanya's teachings of divine love were preached to all these men, and to each was given a copy of the book Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Although these men were given the chance to embrace the teachings of Chaitanya, they did not avail themselves of the opportunity. By the next decade, they were dragged by the power of Maya into the hell known as World War II. Meanwhile, in India, Sarasvati Thakur's disciples preached the Sankirtan movement. In August of 1933, a grand festival was held at Sri Chaitanya Math in Mayapur, and all the Gaudiya devotees attended. In this rare silent film, Sarasvati Thakur is seen delivering a lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam, extolling the virtues of pure devotional service. Sarasvati Thakur stressed that an attraction for service and sacrifice for Krishna is the root cause of spiritual advancement. To all who attended his lectures, he bestowed the blessings of Mahaprabhu and Krishna. In 1934, the construction of the temple at Yogapirtha began. While digging the foundations for the temple, a deity of Vishnu was unearthed. The eminent archaeologist Sri Ram Prasad Chandra ascertained the age of the Vishnu deity to be that of the era of Sri Chaitanya. Thus, it was determined that the Vishnu deity was the household deity of Lord Chaitanya's parents, Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata. This further confirmed the site as the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The next year, 1935, the temple was completed. The grand opening was held on Gaur Purnima and attended by thousands of devotees and pilgrims who performed Sankirtan. The festival was also attended by the king, who commented that he was pleased to see the development of Sri Chaitanya's birthplace. With the opening of the beautiful temple at Yogapirtha, it was concluded by all that Sarasvati Thakur had indeed fulfilled the vision of Bhaktivinoda Thakur with the building of this beautiful temple. Sir John Anderson, Governor of Bengal, then visited Mayapur by personal invitation and presented an official proclamation that Yogapirtha was the authentic birthplace of Sri Chaitanya. News of this came as a death blow to the Sahajis and caste Brahmin communities of Nadavweep. In October 1936, Sarasvati Thakur went to Jagannath Puri, where he began to manifest the pastimes of his departure from this world. In Puri, he preached vigorously to his disciples and visitors. During one confidential discourse, he mentioned that he will not live in this world very much longer. In December, Sarasvati Thakur journeyed back to Calcutta and stayed at the temple. It was here that he gave his last instructions to his disciples. Always preach the message of Sri Rupa Goswami and the other followers of Sri Chaitanya. My only desire is to become the dust at the feet of the followers of Sri Chaitanya. Part 6. His disappearance, 1937. While staying in Calcutta on January the 1st, 1937, at 5:30 a.m., Sarasvati Thakur returned to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Much to the wonder of everyone, all the clocks in that temple stopped at exactly that moment. Arrangements were then made to take Sarasvati Thakur's body from Calcutta back to Mayapur, where his body was placed in Samadhi. Along the way, at many train stations, thousands of people gathered to pay their respects to this phenomenal personality.
সুজনার বুদ্ধরাদিত পাদ যুগং যুগং ধর্মধুরান্ধর পাত্র বারং সুজনার বুদ্ধরাদিত পাদ যুগং যুগং ধর্মধুরান্ধর পাত্র বারং বরদাভয়দায়ক পূজ্য পদ प्रणमामि सदा प्रभुपाद पदं प्रणमामि सदा